I grew up in the bustling city of Kuala Lumpur. My childhood is filled with memories of magical aromas and intense Malaysian flavours that flowed out of my mother's kitchen. While I now call Australia home, my taste buds are still quintessentially Malaysian. Malaysia is the cultural melting pot of Southeast Asia. It's a place where Chinese, Malay and Indian cultures collide to create this unique fusion that is Malaysian cooking. Simple, fast and generally inexpensive. With a little bit of know-how, it's easy to create authentic Malaysian recipes at home. Now, you might think I've taken leave from my regular carnivorous self because I'm making a vegetarian dish today. Now, I love my meat, don't get me wrong, but occasionally there are vegetarian dishes that tickle my fancy. Now, this is one of them. This is a Nonya-style chap chai, we call it, which is really Nonya-style mixed vegetables, and I love it because it incorporates all the lovely Asian vegetables that you don't normally find regularly, but if you persist, and definitely in your Asian grocery stores, you'll find them. So we've got some oil here. Now, this is a Nonya dish. So Nonya, they originated 15th, 17th century ago, and they are really creative, I think, in the way they use different sort of type of spices and different sort of types of ingredients as well. But what we want to do is we want to saute some garlic. Now, I'm not that particular about warming up my oil and then making sure it's really hot and then adding the garlic in, because what I find is if you bring the garlic to temperature with the oil, it infuses the oil with the garlic fragrance and flavour, and I like that. And to that, we're going to add some Chinese cabbage. So Chinese cabbage, or wombok they're called, they are different, obviously, to your regular cabbage, and I love them because there's a crunchy stem, sort of light green sort of leaves that through it as well. We're going to saute that. We've got some lovely shiitake mushrooms, so we'll put that in. Now, we've got as well some black fungus. Black fungus, you can get them in packets in Asian stores, and they are dried, and again, soak them in warm water and you watch them sort of puff up. They're lovely. So there's actually black fungus, and there's also white fungus as well. White fungus are also called snow fungus, and they're used a lot in desserts. So we'll just leave that to saute while we prepare the other ingredients. We've got some lovely Swiss brown mushrooms here. Now, they're fairly large, so we're going to quarter them and again throw them in the wok. And this is a fairly simple dish, so it would appeal to a lot of the vegetarians out there, and I have to say, as a carnivore, I love it. So if you've got any meat eaters in your family, I think you could convince them with this dish. Right, so we've got as well here bean curd skin. So bean curd skins are used a lot in Chinese casseroles. They sell them at Asian grocery stores in packets, and soak them a little bit in water to soften them, and then you can just sort of cut them up. And they add a lovely texture to your dish. We're going to throw that into. Let them get to know each other while I introduce the next ingredient. Now, this is preserved soybeans. They have a very sweet sort of flavour to it. We're going to add about 1.5 tablespoons. We've got some vegetable stock. We'll add to this. Now, while that's coming to boil, have a look at this. This is glass noodles. They're sort of semi-transparent, and I love them. They come in the flat sort of version, sort of like your fettuccine equivalent, if you like, but they also come in thin versions, like your spaghettini, if you like. So we're going to add that in. Now, they need to be soaked, of course, for a good half an hour, just to soften it. So mix that in. Now, just a couple of other ingredients, and then we're almost done. So we've got some brown sugar that I'm going to combine in there with some white pepper. Now, if you notice that a lot of the Southeast Asian cooking, especially Malaysian cooking, we actually find that white pepper is a lot milder. If you want to add black pepper, I won't judge. Right. And lastly, the Asian cooking caramel. So thick, gooey goodness. It is not sweet, I promise you. It is more a thickener and a colorant, and it's brilliant. So we're going to let that simmer for 10 to 15 minutes, and then we're done. And that's been simmering for 15 minutes. It's ready to be served. It's dark and broody, love it. We're going to put that in a bowl with the noodles and the vegetables. Fantastic. Now, if I ever were to turn vegetarian, this dish would convert me. Malaysia does street food really well. We are going to try making this Nonya otak-otak, which is a fish cake, our version of fish cake. And here to show us is Carol Selvaraja.
Thank you.
Hello, Carol.
If we're grilling it as we are planning to do, the aroma again is wonderful. That's why it's street food. You gather people around from everywhere when you start grilling this.
Yeah.
Aroma, perfume.
I'm just peeling some fresh turmeric. Now, we don't see this a lot. People tend to use a lot of the powdered version, which is fine. But if you do get a fresh version of a turmeric, it looks like that's like a little ginger, and you peel it with a teaspoon. And what you get is this gorgeous orangey sort of root, which is fantastic. It just colors your skin as well. We are going to blitz this together with some candle nuts. Now, Carol is going to break them up for me. So the candle nuts are great. You can get them in Asian grocery stores. And as a substitute, if you can't find them, try harder. But if you really, really can't find them, you can substitute them with macadamia nuts.
Yes.
Right.
I can put the turmeric in here as well. I blend the turmeric with this. Okay?
Do we want to do it on the mortar and pestle?
Just this one, and the rest you can start blitzing.
Perfect. So we're also going to add some galangal. Galangal is another root vegetable. It's very citrusy. This is just finely grated. Just add a little bit of that.
And you can take that, yes.
I can indeed. Now, mortar and pestle is fantastic. I think it is an absolute must in your household. But if you prefer your modern gadgetry or electrical appliance, a food processor is absolutely fine. Now, we've got shrimp paste as well. Shrimp paste, there's two different versions. You get them in blocks, which are also called belacan. But there's also this liquid form, which is sort of like a black paste.
Yes.
It's really thick and pasty. I love this.
It's like treacle, isn't it?
It is like treacle. Now, we're also adding some chili paste. Now, I usually just use sambal oleh, which I think is fine. Now, we're going to add about
1 tablespoon.
1 tablespoon.
Yes.
Now, I'm going to give this a good blitz. This spice paste smells amazing. Now, we've got some lovely fish fillets here.
Can be cut up into cubes first?
Certainly can. And we are blending this with just a little bit of water.
Yes.
And we're combining all this with the spice paste in a minute. Probably just one more.
Yes, just one more is fine, yes.
Now, do you have any particular fish that you use, Carol?
I like snapper or ling, doesn't matter, either one.
Yep.
It just have to have a lot of protein in it so that it blends nicely and you have that lovely glutinous flavour in it and that sheen, you know, when you blend it.
And it has to be firm flesh?
It has to be firm, yes. It
Right.
has to be firm flesh.
Right. Now, promise me you will not be put off by this, but otak-otak translated means brains.
Yes, it looks like brain when you finally get it done.
Because of the mousse sort of like texture,
yes.
and it's nothing to sort of worry about.
And a little bit of coconut cream.
Yep. I'll just
Put it
this
all
here.
there, yes. And I can whip that together.
Yep.
With this. Just put it in. That's it. Yes, fine.
Do you want me to add the spice paste?
Yes, the spice paste. Wow, that's lovely.
Oh, this smells good. Bit of salt and sugar.
Yes. And onion grated, a little bit of onion grated. You can grate it into this. Sorry.
That's okay. That's some sugar. Now, any particular reason why we're grating the onion?
Yes, if we blend the onion, I noticed that it becomes very bitter. And there's something about the onion that I always grate rather than blend.
Right. And we're using purple onions.
Purple onion, yes. We call it Bombay onions. Here they call it Spanish onions. I don't know. It's red onions. That's all. Aromatic. Have a little smell of that. Pity you didn't have smell-o-vision, you know.
Oh, I know, right? So what are we doing next?
A little bit of cafe lime, yes. And I'd like to shred it. Can I show you how I do it?
Please do. I would roll it into a cigar and just shred it, but Carol will show us another way. So Carol's getting rid of that
the thick stem.
Divider there.
The divider, because it doesn't have any aroma in it, and you can't roll it very neatly in, into a cigar. So you roll it very fine.
And then you shred it.
And then you shred it, yes. There.
It's really all about sort of introducing a lot of different textures, a lot of different fragrances, and, you know, like I think it's such a perfumed sort of dish.
There. And that goes in.
So that goes in as well?
Yes. Can you smell that? Your fingers will
sure
smell
can.
beautifully. It's just lovely.
My finger's all shade of orange. Thanks, Jimrick.
And this one will go on top as a garnish afterwards.
Great.
That's lovely.
When served at home in Malaysia, it would be wrapped up in a nice banana leaf. Now, Carol is going to show us how you would wrap this, and then we are going to grill it. So I'll give you a spoon.
Actually, you dip it in hot water until it's really pliant, and then you put it in. And when we were kids, we couldn't get hot water. You just use an iron.
An iron?
It'll soften it, yes. There. That's it. Put it there, that way. Roll it up.
And it's a great use of banana leaf. The Malays in Malaysia would use the banana leaf as a serving dish on their nasi lemak and all their little curries that they make as well. So this is one other way to sort of do it, is to turn them into parcels. And of course, banana leaves are so perfumed. So when you sort of cook it, like you get the perfume that mixes through the parcel as well. And check this out. So we're just going to make a few of them, and then we're going to grill them. Now we'll just brush some oil there, so that's coming to heat. So we're going to fry this?
Just fry that, yes.
All right. So how long does this need to fry for?
I think it's about 8 to 10 minutes. You've got to keep turning it to make sure it's okay.
Right. I think this is an alternative to a barbecue. I think this is great. Like barbecue Malaysian style. So we've got some
rocket and spinach.
Rocket and spinach. So we'll just put that there. All right. Which one? Big one.
I think this big one.
That one? Okay.
Yeah.
I think that's lovely. I think we should take a few.
Yeah, take a couple.
Yeah.
That one. That's it.
That's lovely. Now we are going to open one up. Oh. Oh, check that out. Now that is really nice. So it's really a moussey texture, which is what we want. And I think there's something quite rustic about this. So we'll open the other one as well. I think it's quite lovely. We've got some more condiments to sort of go in there. So we've got lovely pineapple. So this has been sliced really thinly in a mandolin. And we want to sort of dress it up like a little rosette.
Yes.
So we've got some pickled ginger as well. Now this works as a festive dish. Works well as street food as well. Very versatile and very healthy, Carol, I think. It's just fish mousse, isn't it?
Yes.
One final touch, Carol?
Yes, the cafe lime leaf.
So tell me where you'd find this dish in Malaysia.
Well, you find it in hawker stalls. Traditionally, probably in Malacca or Penang or Singapore. This is part of the whole tradition of food in Malaysia because it's aromatic, it's colorful, and it's versatile.
It's very homely. Give this a try. And if you don't have a grill pan, try it on your barbecue. And you know, this is Malaysian on a plate. An ode to Gula Melaka. Now, trust me, I'm not swearing. Gula Melaka is a type of palm sugar originated from Malacca, which is a state in Peninsular Malaysia. It's a dark brown sugar that's really nice and caramelly, and I love this. We use it a lot for desserts, and sometimes we use it to balance our curries. We're going to start by melting this into a lovely syrup in a saucepan. There's a lot of confusion between palm sugar and palm oil. They come from completely different trees. Palm oil comes from palm trees, whereas the palm sugar comes from date palm trees. So they're slightly different. So you can enjoy it without any feeling of guilt, except for the calories. Right, we'll let that melt and dissolve. We've got here some dates that's been soaking in brandy, about 20 to 30 minutes, and then drained to get it to plump it up and give it that extra flavour. We're going to mix that with some desiccated coconut. Now, you can tell if you've been to Malaysia, if you've had any Malaysian food, a lot of our desserts are very coconut-based. And what I love about it is it's quite nutritious, it gives you extra fiber and all that, but it's also quite versatile. So you can use them in desserts and you can also use them in savory dishes. Now we're mixing that through, just keeping an eye on the sugar every now and then. Technically speaking, when you're dissolving sugar in a saucepan, it's not wise to stir it with any implement at all. Just shake it gently, like so. By swirling the pan, you get a lot more of a consistent effect. That looks nice and syrupy. Take it off the heat. Now we've got this date and coconut mix. We are going to put that on the base of the ramekin. We've greased them a little bit with butter. Just divide it equally. We've got this syrup that we are going to drizzle. Just about a tablespoon and a half each. There's a lot of different types of palm sugar. This one I'm using in particular is similar to a dark brown sugar. So the difference in flavor, of course, is Gula Melaka is a lot more caramelly. We have them a lot in the Nonya desserts especially. So we'll set that aside and we'll start creaming the butter and sugar. Now, it is a coconut milk based batter, which means you get that lovely creaminess of the coconut, which is fantastic. Now, we just want to make sure this is mixed until it gets sort of that crumbly sort of texture. And we're going to beat in 2 eggs, one at a time. That is well mixed, and now we want to add in the coconut milk. So we want about a can, which is approximately 270 mils. We are going to fold in some sifted self-raising flour. This particular recipe, sort of like a lot of the recipes that I cook with, very forgiving. So if you are a novice baker, this will be easy. Now, what we want to do is to spoon this mixture into the ramekins that we prepared earlier. And you want to fill it right up to 2/3 height of the ramekin, because don't forget, what you have in there is self-raising flour and the mixture will rise. Now, the next step is, this is a steamed pudding, so you want to introduce steam in there. So we put a little bit of hot water, just enough to fill in halfway through the baking tin. Make sure your oven is preheated to 190 degrees. Now what I'm doing here, I'm putting in baking paper, grease-proof, because don't forget, when it rises, you don't want it to sort of touch the foil, which is the next layer, because otherwise it'll stick. So we'll cover that, not too tightly so you don't have to stress if it doesn't stick. About 40 minutes in the oven, and then we're done. They're looking nice and raised. And have a spatula ready, just to loosen them on the side. So you grab a plate, This is a great reveal, and this always makes me very nervous. And what you want to do is to have, voila. Check that out. Now, of course, it's never complete without extra sauce. So you've got that lovely syrup that you just made. And if you are a sweet tooth, feel free to add a dollop of ice cream. Any maple syrup ice cream or nutty ice cream would go really well, but I think, unadulterated, this is perfectly fine. So there's a time in someone's life when you need to be just alone with your pudding, so I'll see you later.